Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. I want to address what is becoming a huge issue for the young people of our country, and that is the cost of living. Let me show you this article here from Fox Business. First-time home buyers need this much to afford a starter home. That's a starter home, your first house. First-time buyers need to earn nearly $6,000 more to buy a home than they did simply 1 year ago. As of February, first-time buyers needed to earn $75,000 annually to afford the typical U.S. starter home, which is nearly $6,000 more than they did a year ago, due to elevated mortgage rates and high home prices, according to recent data from Redfin. According to data from the technology-powered real estate brokerage, the monthly housing payment for a starter home jumped 8.2% in February from a year earlier, reaching $1,896. For a starter home, I'm over 40 and I've never had a house payment that high. It's a stark difference compared with February 2020, before the pandemic, when Americans needed to earn $40,465 annually to afford a starter home. At the time, the median sell price was $169,000 and the average mortgage rate was around 3.5%. Today, mortgage rates are hovering just under 7%. While incomes are on the rise, they are not keeping pace with the rate of starter home costs. And that's just talking about the rate of the homes. That's not factoring in inflation, shrinkflation, just general overall cost of survival. But as of February, a typical American household earned an estimated $84,000, up 5.5% from a year earlier. In comparison, the income needed to purchase a starter home jumped 8.2% from a year earlier. I don't know if that's actually true. They sourced their references on the other two statements of fact that they made, but what source are they referencing for that? Because I don't know if Americans are making 5.5% more than they were last year. And I definitely don't think the typical American household makes around $85,000 a year. Today, the median income is 11% higher than what's needed to buy a starter home. However, a year ago, it was 14% higher. And during the pandemic times, it was 63% higher, according to Redfin. In a separate report, the brokerage noted that a buyer in the overall market must earn about $114,000 to afford the typical U.S. home. That is roughly $30,000 more than the median U.S. income household. Redfin senior economist Elijah De La Campa said that the pandemic, which caused a housing market boom, ended up changing the definition of a starter home. A decade ago, many people thought of a starter home as a small 3-bedroom, single-family house. Now, that type of home could cost 7 figures, especially in expensive parts of the country, De La Campa said. A starter home back then isn't even comparable to what they're calling a starter home today, and the prices are still up. The most affordable home is much smaller, but they often require a lot of work to make them habitable, which makes them cost even more, he added, definitely. With rising prices and borrowing costs, today's most affordable homes are still hard for the average American to afford, let alone the average first-time buyer who tends to put less money down in exchange for higher monthly payments, De La Campa said. If you're a first-time home buyer, you're most likely coming out of a rental situation, and rent is really expensive. And it's hard to save up money for a down payment while you're paying rent and all these inflated costs of goods for groceries and just to survive, And they're just making it harder and harder for these young folks to buy houses and get into the pursuit of the American dream. They told them to go to college, to put themselves in debt, getting that college degree or not, doing what society told them to do. And even those with degrees are having troubles finding jobs in their fields. A lot of people end up working in jobs or fields that they didn't even go to school for, but yet they still carry all this student debt. They come out of college and they find out that they have to rent because they don't have any cash for a down payment. So they go rent, they go work, and then all of a sudden they're stuck. Everything that they make goes to living. How are they supposed to save enough money to get a down payment and break out of that cycle? Instead, they're stuck renting, paying somebody else's mortgage or somebody else's, apartment building or whatever. And it blocks them. It stops them. If you can't even afford to own a house, you can't break into that. How could you be expected to start a family? Having kids is expensive, and it's just not right that society has dictated to these kids who were promised a fair chance at pursuing the American dream, the government official, whatever you want to call them, banks, everybody combined, are making it really hard for them to break out into the homeowner class under, the Democrat leadership that likes to push the same things that like the World Economic Forum push, essentially, that support the same type of stuff that the World Economic Forum pushes, seems to trying to put people in their pods so that they can eat the bugs and be happy and own nothing, right? You remember when Klaus Schwab, or what was it, his little crony guy, came out and said, people will live in the pods, you will live in the pods, eat the bugs, own nothing, and be happy. Now, and what I see is after a couple decades or a decade of this, you'll have 40-year-olds that have never owned their house and never will, and therefore they never started a family. And you just got to wonder if this is some type of design to oppress the young people. And I'm making this video because I just want to stand up for these young people. I believe that they deserve the same chance, the same opportunities that were afforded to the older generations. Now, granted, it's equally as difficult for an adult to break into the homeowner market if they haven't by now, for the same reasons that I've already explained. But just a bad situation that we're headed towards. The quickest, best solution that I can come up with is that we have to elect better local leaders, local representation, vote in your local primary. Don't just go out there and fill in the presidential box and leave everything else empty. Go out there and vote for the representatives in your state that are going to stand up for you as an individual. I've said before that we all learned during the pandemic how important a governor is to how our daily lives go on. You had states like New York and California that were on lockdown. They're arresting everybody for going out in public without a mask, essentially. And then you had other places like Texas and Florida that were basically free. Yeah, if you wanted to wear a mask, you could. You probably got laughed at. But we learned that it wasn't the president that actually has that type of control over our lives as much as it was the governor and mayor, particularly. So keep all that in mind. Do your research. Look up who these other people are besides the president and elect the good ones. If they have their pronouns listed, no vote. And I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one or learned something. And if you did, hit that like button, possibly subscribe to the channel. And if not, maybe next time. But I appreciate you stopping by, and I will see you guys in the next one.